Good day, everyone. Welcome back to our show. I pray that God will give us wisdom once again to have a productive learning experience here at Vet Talks with Doc Athena.
Good morning. Today we are going to discuss external parasites of goats, part 2, mites and keds. This is a guide for animal raisers, students of veterinary medicine and animal science, and basically anyone interested on this topic. This is already part 2 of this series, therefore we are going to focus on mites and keds. Part 1 focused on lice and ticks, and the next part, which is part 3, will focus on fleas and flies. Mites and keds. Let us start with mites first. Mites cause a condition called mange. This is a dermatological or skin disease that is common not just in goats, but also with other animals. Mites feed on the surface or burrow within the skin, and they discharge fluid at the tunnel openings to form nodules. So these are the raised or elevated parts of the skin that we see abnormally on the skin of the animals with mites. Also, mites secrete a toxin that causes intense irritation and itching, therefore causing the animal to have continuous rubbing and scratching. This is very debilitating to animals infested with mites. The mites that we are going to discuss in this lesson basically present as well in other animals. The genus is the same, but the species might differ. But before we discuss, or before we go to the discussion of mites in goats, I would like to thank and recognize first our reference for the photos that will be presented in the next slides. I would like to thank S.J. Upton from Kansas State University and Thomas Nolan from University of Pennsylvania. They own the photos that we're going to present in this lecture. Now let's go to mites first. We have goat follicle mite, which causes demodectic mange. Demodectic from the genus Demodex. So Demodex capreae produce dermal papules and nodules. They cause the hair follicles or gland ducts becoming obstructed and producing these swellings, trapping the mites with these lesions, most common in young animals, pregnant does, and dairy goats, particularly Saanen breed. As you can see on the right side, the microscopic view of Demodex presents like a cigar shape. This is very distinct among Demodex species. Take note of the shape because later we are going to compare them to other genus of mites. So next would be scabies mite, which causes sarcoptic mange, coming from the genus name Sarcoptes. Sarcoptes burrows into the skin of its host, causing varying degrees of dermatitis. They also cause crusty lesions, dermal thickening, dry, scaly skin, and hair loss. Sometimes, if it infects the scrotum and ears, it also causes wrinkling. And as you can see on the right side, Sarcoptes has a globus shape as compared to Demodex. But note also that some other mites have more of a circular or rounded shape, but Sarcoptes has hind legs that do not exceed the diameter of its body. Take note of that. Next is the Psoroptic ear mite, which causes ear mange. This is caused by Psoroptes cuniculi. Psoroptes, as mentioned, is targeting most of the time the ears, and they cause crust formation and foul odor because of the discharges in the external ear canal, which in turn affects the balance and behavioral responses of the animal. Of course, since these mites infest the ears, the animal tends to scratch the ears, and also head shaking is observed as it tries to get rid of these mites or parasites. As I have mentioned, since there's a loss of equilibrium, the animal might appear to be losing its balance. They don't walk normally because they're losing their equilibrium. We can also observe spasmodic contraction of neck muscles as well as weight loss. And if we submit a blood sample to the lab, there could be anemia. These mites or parasites could be transferred vertically, meaning from the mother to the kid or to the young. Let's look at the photo on the right side. Psoroptes, just like Sarcoptes, has also a globular shape, however less regular as compared to Sarcoptes, and all of its legs exceed the diameter of its body. So that is the characteristic morphology of Psoroptes. Next would be chorioptic scab mite, which causes chorioptic mange from the genus name Chorioptes. Look at the legs and feet. They have the longest legs compared to the other three mites that we have mentioned. And when this infestation occurs in your farm, it affects about 80 to 90% of your herd. They usually infest the forefeet of goats, and the lesions are generally mild and seldom draw attention. Maybe if you see mange on the forelegs of your goats, then you might want to submit skin scrape to the laboratory to test for chorioptic mange. That's it for mites.
Just a short break, folks. Did you learn something so far? If yes, please give us a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, clarifications, or anything related to this lecture video, please comment it below. Are you enjoying this free lecture? If yes, please consider subscribing in our YouTube channel and follow us on Athena Facebook page, because through the page, we could communicate better. I do my best to reply to all your comments here in YouTube, but if you want a better communication, then please do follow our Facebook page so that we can have a better form of communication. That's for a short break. Now let's go back to work.
Now let's move to Keds. Keds are Hippobosidae. These include Melophagus ovinus, also known as louse flies or sheep tick. These are large, flattened, usually wingless parasitic flies. Their two species feed on goats, and they cause irritation and prompt the infested animal to rub, bite, and scratch. They also roll on the ground in an attempt to relieve irritation. These parasites crawl on the skin and feed by inserting their sharp mouth parts into capillaries and sucking blood, much like a mosquito, but they are wingless. The economic impact of this external parasite is that the hide buyers downgrade the skins with Cockle because it weakens the hide and discolors them. This photo shows how Keds look like, and this is particularly an adult sheep Ked or the Melophagus ovinus, and I would like to thank Ken Gray image courtesy of Oregon State University. This is Keds. We only have one photo for these external parasites for presentation purposes. For references, I would like to thank Kaufman, Kohler, and Butler of the University of Florida Extension, as well as Justin Talley of Oklahoma Cooperative Extension of Oklahoma State University for sharing with us these images of mites and kids. That's all, folks. I hope you learned something from this short lecture. And to summarize our lecture part 2, mites and kids, here are the other external parasites for goats. Lice and ticks were discussed in part 1. We discussed in this part 2 the mites and kids. And for the next part 3, we're going to discuss fleas and flies. Again, pediculosis is a chronic dermatitis characterized by constant irritation, itching, rubbing, and biting of the hair. Also, mites cause a dermatological condition called mange because they burrow in the skin, whereas Keds are not very common in goats, but they are more common external parasite of sheep. And the economic impact of this external parasite is that the hide buyers downgrade skins with Cockle because it weakens the hide and discolors them. So that's all, folks. I hope you learned something from this lecture, External Parasites of Goats, Part 2. Thank you for being with us. I hope to see you again in our next lecture. Please keep safe, everyone, and God bless us all. Bye!
Thank you for being with us in this episode of Vet Talks with Doc Athena. For those who have not yet subscribed our YouTube channel, please do so. Did you learn something from this lecture? If yes, please hit the like button. If you want to be a part of our social media community and always updated of our new posts or to talk to me directly, you may do so by following our Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. Again, thank you very much. Please keep safe, everyone. God bless us all, and I hope to see you again in our next lecture. This is Doc Athena, your country vet.